The stars above the Andarian galaxy shone like scattered diamonds, but their light could not reach the sorrow and fury that gripped the heart of Queen Zyra. She hovered above a ruined planet, her massive form casting shadows across the shattered cities below. Her sons, her precious younglings, were gone, vanished. The thought alone made her roar, a sound so deep and fierce that mountains trembled and rivers shifted in their beds. Her fleet of scouts scanned the horizon, their sleek forms darting across space like silver knives, yet none returned with news. Her sons were nowhere to be found. Zyra's mind raced, a storm of fear and rage. How could this happen? Her children, each one clever and daring in their own way, had never been without her protection before. She had ruled countless systems, crushed countless foes, and yet here in this corner of the galaxy, her sons had slipped from her grasp. She clenched her claws, the sharp talons glinting in the starlight, and felt a mix of desperation and determination she had never known before. She would find them no matter the cost. Far away, on a blue and green world called Earth, humans went about their lives, unaware that the Queen's fury was stirring across the stars. Among them, in a quiet research facility far from the noise of cities, Dr. Aaron Cole was staring at a console filled with strange patterns. He was a human who had always been fascinated by the unknown, the mysteries of the universe that no one else seemed to notice. Lately, he had been tracking faint signals, patterns that did not match anything humans had ever made. They pulsed like a heartbeat across the void, faint yet insistent. Aaron leaned closer, adjusting the dials. He could feel the signal, a rhythm that seemed alive, almost intelligent. He frowned. "What are you?" he whispered to himself. The signals were beautiful and strange, like music from a place he could not imagine. Most humans would have ignored them, called them noise, but Aaron felt drawn to them. He had spent years preparing for this moment, studying alien communication, learning to recognize the subtle patterns of minds that were not human. Meanwhile, Queen Zyra's scouts had begun searching near Earth. The Queen's sons, young and curious, had followed their own instincts. They were unlike other creatures, part of a line that had learned cunning, empathy, and playfulness from their mother. They did not fully understand their powers, their potential, or the danger they were in. They simply knew that warmth, safety, and comfort were rare things in the galaxy. And so, when they first glimpsed Earth, they felt something they had never felt before: calm. The boys moved with careful steps, slipping through forests and empty plains, avoiding detection as they followed faint signals. Every instinct told them to hide, but another, softer voice inside them told them to trust the warmth they sensed nearby. That warmth belonged to a human named Aaron, a man with kind eyes and a steady presence, unaware of the tiny alien figures approaching him. When the first boy appeared, it was near the edge of Aaron's research lab. He was small, with soft, almost translucent skin that shimmered under Earth's sunlight. His eyes were wide, curious, yet cautious. He froze, unsure whether this human would be a threat or a friend. Aaron, busy adjusting his equipment, did not notice the small visitor at first. But then the boy, guided by instinct, took a careful step forward. The warmth of Aaron's body, his steady heartbeat, seemed to call to the boy. Without realizing it, the alien crawled onto the human's chest, seeking the safety he had never known. Aaron froze. The sensation of something small and light settling on him made him look down. At first, he thought it was a trick of his imagination. Then he saw the boy's eyes, shining with intelligence and curiosity. Aaron's breath caught in his throat. He had studied alien life in theory, but this was the first time he had encountered it in person. Yet instead of fear, he felt a strange calm. The boy was not aggressive, not dangerous. He was seeking something very human: trust. As the boy slept lightly on Aaron's chest, the scientist's mind raced. How had they come here? Where were the others? And most importantly, how would Queen Zyra react when she discovered her sons were on Earth? Aaron knew the answer to the last question could be catastrophic. Alien technology far exceeded anything humans had built. A confrontation with the Queen could destroy cities, perhaps even the entire planet. But Aaron also knew that the boys were not simply children. They were beings of intelligence, capable of understanding, capable of connection. He gently stroked the boy's head, careful not to wake him. The skin was soft, warmer than he had expected, and the boy's small hands curled instinctively around him. Aaron whispered, "I won't hurt you, you're safe here." He didn't know if the boy understood his words, but the rhythm of his voice, calm and steady, seemed to matter more than the meaning. Far above Earth, in the cold darkness of space, Queen Zyra's sensors picked up movement. She narrowed her eyes, the purple glow of her eyes cutting through the emptiness. Her sons were near, but they were not where they should be. Her fleet adjusted its course, scanning the planet below. She could feel their presence, tiny sparks of energy, and her fury roared once more. Her sons were so close and yet untouchable. How could such fragile humans harbor her children without harm? On Earth, Aaron set about trying to understand what had happened. He brought out instruments designed to detect energy signatures, hoping to track the boys' species and their abilities. He quickly realized that the boys were absorbing some kind of energy from the environment, something natural, something that humans had long ignored. They were feeding on calm, on warmth, on trust. The more they felt safe, the stronger they became. And that was why they had chosen him. Humans, despite their fragility in the universe, had a quality no other species possessed, a calm, clever resilience. Days passed and the boys grew accustomed to Aaron's presence. They explored the lab, touching instruments, learning without words. Aaron observed them with a mix of wonder and concern. They were playful, curious, and remarkably intelligent. But he also knew the Queen was coming. Her rage would not be quelled by distance. Every human on Earth, every structure, every piece of technology was no match for her might. Yet Aaron also understood that the human mind could do things that brute strength could not. He devised a plan. Using mirrors, signals, and the environment itself, he began creating a system to misdirect any approaching threat, hoping to buy time. He knew that the boys' safety depended on human ingenuity, the cleverness and adaptability that had allowed his species to survive countless challenges. He worked tirelessly, balancing fear and hope, knowing that the Queen's fury was a force that could not be underestimated. The boys slept peacefully that night on his chest, the rhythmic rise and fall of their tiny bodies mirroring his own heartbeat. Outside, Earth's wind whispered through trees, carrying the scent of life, of growth, and of hope. Aaron knew that this moment, brief and fragile as it was, represented something extraordinary, a meeting of worlds, a connection that could change the future. Humanity was no longer simply a bystander in the galaxy. Here, on this small blue planet, humans had shown that they could protect, nurture, and outthink, even when faced with forces far beyond their comprehension. Far above, Queen Zyra's roar echoed faintly, a sound that vibrated across the stars. Her sons were close, yet she could not touch them. The humans had something she had not expected, strategy, courage, and an ability to care deeply. The Queen's fury burned, but beneath it, a new feeling stirred, respect. She had always seen humans as fragile, temporary, insignificant. Now she began to see them as something else entirely, something dangerous in a way she had never imagined. And so, in that quiet lab on Earth, a small human and a small alien shared a moment of trust. The boys, once lost and alone, had found warmth. Aaron, once a mere observer of the cosmos, had become a protector, a bridge between worlds. The Queen would come. Her fury would not be denied. But for now, humanity had proven itself in the simplest, most profound way, by thinking, feeling, and protecting what mattered. The stars outside twinkled like distant promises, and Aaron knew that the story of this meeting was only beginning. The universe was vast, full of danger and wonder, but also full of unexpected connections. And in this quiet, fragile moment, Earth's humans had taken their first step into a larger story, a story where their cleverness, empathy, and resilience might one day rival even the greatest queens of the galaxy. And so the night passed. The boys slept on a human chest. The Queen searched above, and the future waited, uncertain, thrilling, and full of possibility. The first light of dawn filtered through the lab windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. Dr. Aaron Cole sat in his chair, eyes fixed on the tiny figures curled on his chest. The boys had moved slightly during the night, still asleep but restless, as if dreaming of worlds he could not begin to imagine. Outside, Earth was waking, oblivious to the quiet drama unfolding in a small lab on the edge of civilization. Aaron had spent the night thinking, planning, and worrying. Queen Zyra's signals had grown stronger, more insistent. She had learned to detect the energy signatures of her sons, and every pulse across space made Aaron's pulse quicken. He knew that she would not stop until she found them. Yet he also knew something vital. She expected a battle, a confrontation of strength. She did not anticipate cleverness, improvisation, and empathy, human strengths that could defy even her fury. By mid-morning, the boys had fully woken. They were cautious, observing Aaron with wide, curious eyes. One of them tilted his head, small wings fluttering briefly, while the other stretched and yawned, revealing tiny claws that, while sharp in design, were harmless in this moment. Aaron held out his hands, letting them explore the textures of the human world. Books, instruments, and screens became fascinating objects to the boys. Every tool was a puzzle, every sound a new pattern to study. "They're learning fast," Aaron murmured to himself, his voice calm but full of awe. "Faster than I imagined. They're not just children, they're intelligent beyond what most humans would guess." Her scouts moved like shadows across the void, silent and precise, transmitting updates back to her throne ship. The Queen's mind was a storm of fear and fury. Each moment her sons remained hidden felt like an eternity, and yet every time she attempted to focus on the small blue planet, she felt a strange hesitation. Humans were present. They were clever, resourceful, and unpredictable. She had underestimated them. Back in the lab, Aaron began constructing a system to misdirect any potential threat. He used mirrors, sensors, and computer-controlled lights to create patterns that could confuse and redirect advanced scanners. Each device was simple in design, yet when combined, they formed a network of illusions that could conceal the boy's location. Aaron worked tirelessly, his fingers moving across keyboards, adjusting settings, and testing responses. He did not sleep, for every minute mattered. The boys observed him quietly. They did not understand the purpose of his actions, but they felt the intent behind them. Trust grew in small gestures, the gentle brush of a hand, the calm rhythm of Aaron's voice, the quiet confidence that radiated from him. One of the boys climbed onto Aaron's shoulder, peering at the screens, as if trying to comprehend the complexity of human thought. The other curled up at his side, resting its head against his arm. Suddenly, an alert beeped on the main monitor. Aaron's eyes widened as he read the energy readings. One of Queen Zyra's scouts had entered Earth's orbit. The Queen was close, and her sensors were adaptively intelligent, capable of predicting and circumventing simple traps. This was not a foe to underestimate, yet Aaron remained calm, a deep breath steadying his nerves. He would not panic. Panic was useless against a mind like Zyra's. Strategy, observation, and patience were his weapons. He activated the first layer of his defensive system. Lights flickered, reflecting across mirrored panels, creating false energy signatures. Sounds and signals were manipulated to mimic the presence of other creatures across the planet. The scout's sensors scanned repeatedly, confused by the inconsistencies, unable to pinpoint the boys. Aaron whispered, "It's working. Stay calm. We're going to be okay." Above the atmosphere, the Queen's scout hesitated. Its readings were inconsistent, its AI unsure how to proceed. Zyra's mind, vast and commanding, roared in frustration. How could such small, fragile creatures evade her? How could these humans, seemingly primitive, disrupt her precise calculations? Rage and confusion battled within her. She extended her senses further, reaching across the void, feeling the presence of her sons. She knew they were near, but the exact location eluded her. Meanwhile, Aaron had begun planning the next step. He would need more than deception. He needed a way to communicate, to show that the boys were safe and that a confrontation could be avoided. He recalled studies of nonverbal communication with animals, ancient methods humans had used to calm wild creatures. By combining these techniques with technology, he could project calm, focus, and intent. Over several hours, he created a system that sent out low-frequency pulses, modulated to resonate with the boys' energy signatures. These pulses were calming, reassuring, reinforcing their sense of security. The boys responded immediately, their small bodies relaxing, their wings folding gently. They seemed to understand that this human was not a threat. For the first time, they explored without fear, climbing onto equipment, peering curiously at glowing screens, touching switches and buttons with careful fingers. Aaron observed them closely, fascinated. He had spent years studying alien life in theory, but this was first-hand observation, a chance to learn not just about their species, but about the connection between species. He realized something profound. Humans, despite their fragility in the universe, had a quality that allowed them to interact meaningfully with beings far more powerful. Their minds were adaptive, their creativity unmatched. And this was why his species could survive and thrive, even in a galaxy dominated by forces far stronger than themselves. Even as he worked, he could feel the tension in space. Queen Zyra's scout continued to circle, probing, testing, and analyzing. She was learning quickly, adjusting her approach, anticipating patterns. But Aaron had the advantage of unpredictability. The human mind did not follow predictable logic. It adapted, improvised, and found solutions in ways the Queen had never encountered. Suddenly, the scout shifted its course, moving closer to the planet's surface. Aaron's heart raced. The Queen was preparing to descend herself. Every moment counted. He spoke softly to the boys, "Stay with me. Trust me, everything we do now will keep you safe." One boy climbed onto his shoulder again, while the other nestled against his chest. Their trust was tangible, a quiet force that strengthened his resolve. The first of the Queen's drones broke through the atmosphere. It scanned rapidly, beams of light probing the landscape, searching for energy signatures that matched her son's. Aaron's system activated automatically, redirecting the beams, sending false signals across the lab and projecting duplicates across the nearby terrain. The drone hesitated, confused, unable to determine the true location. For the first time, Aaron realized something extraordinary. Humans could outthink even the most intelligent of alien systems. It was not brute strength that mattered, not firepower or size. It was creativity, intuition, and understanding. These qualities had allowed humanity to survive countless challenges on their own planet. And now, they allowed him to protect two of the galaxy's most sought-after beings. Hours passed like this, a tense balance between predator and protector. Aaron constantly adjusted the system, watching the boys' reactions, noting every movement, every subtle shift in energy. He felt exhausted, but he did not stop. Sleep was unnecessary, focus was necessary, and the boys, sensing his dedication, remained calm, trusting entirely in his presence. As night fell again, the planet below was bathed in soft moonlight. Aaron allowed himself a brief moment of reflection. He thought about the Queen, her fury, and her determination. He thought about the boys, their curiosity and vulnerability. And he thought about humanity, fragile yet resilient, clever yet compassionate. He understood that this moment, this delicate balance, was a test, not just of survival, but of the human spirit itself. Above, Queen Zyra paused, feeling the frustration in her mind. She was aware of the humans' actions, aware of the traps and illusions that had thwarted her drones. Rage mixed with curiosity. These humans were different from other species she had encountered. They were small, fragile, and yet capable of things she could not calculate. She realized that brute force alone would not reclaim her sons. She would have to reconsider, to observe, and perhaps to learn. In the lab, Aaron settled into his chair, the boys resting against him. He whispered softly, "We'll be safe tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out the next step." The boys responded with small, quiet movements, their trust in him growing with every passing moment. He felt a surge of hope, fragile but strong, that they could survive this. The stars above twinkled, distant and cold, but within the lab a different kind of light shone. The light of connection, trust, and understanding. The boys had found safety in the most unlikely of places, a human chest, a human mind, and a human heart. And Aaron had discovered something equally remarkable, that even in the vastness of space, humanity's ingenuity and compassion could create miracles. Outside, the Queen observed, her presence looming yet unseen. She would come closer, she would investigate further, but for now she paused, perplexed and uneasy. Her sons remained hidden, their safety ensured not by strength or weaponry, but by the cleverness of a single human mind. And so the night passed. The boys slept peacefully. Aaron watched over them, alert and focused. Above, Queen Zyra's fleet continued to scan, unaware that they were being outmatched not by technology, but by human ingenuity and trust. The universe was vast, filled with danger and possibility, yet in that small lab on Earth, a remarkable truth shone brightly. Humans, small and fragile though they were, could protect, nurture, and outthink forces far greater than themselves. And the story, the adventure, was only just beginning. The following morning, Earth's sky glowed with a soft orange light as the sun rose over the horizon. Dr. Aaron Cole moved quietly through his lab, glancing at the boys who were awake and exploring the room with a mix of curiosity and caution. One of them hopped onto a shelf to peer at a collection of glass tubes, fascinated by the way sunlight reflected through them. The other remained close to Aaron, its tiny hands brushing against his shirt, seeking reassurance in the familiar warmth. Outside, far above the planet, a massive shadow moved silently across space. Queen Zyra had arrived. Her enormous ship, black and shimmering with alien metal, hovered just beyond the atmosphere. From her observation deck, she watched Earth with a mix of fury and disbelief. Her sons were near, she could sense them, yet their precise location remained hidden. How could such small, fragile humans conceal her children? She had underestimated them. Rage coiled within her, yet beneath it, curiosity and grudging respect stirred. Aaron, monitoring the energy signatures from the boys, noticed subtle fluctuations. "She's here," he whispered, his voice calm but tense. The boys, sensing the change in the environment, grew quiet. Their instincts warned them of danger, yet they also seemed to trust Aaron. He smiled softly, brushing a hand along one of their backs. "We'll handle this," he said. Stay close and trust me. He used signals that mimicked other energy sources, sending false readings into the atmosphere. He set up drones that moved in programmed patterns, creating illusions of movement and life where there was none. The boys watched with wide eyes, clearly understanding that something important was happening, even if they did not fully grasp the details. Queen Zyra aboard her ship scanned relentlessly. Her eyes, deep and glowing, pierced the veil of human tricks and misdirections. She roared, a low, rumbling sound that echoed through the void, shaking satellites and stirring storms in the upper atmosphere. Her mind was brilliant, capable of predicting outcomes across multiple systems, yet she found herself struggling against the unpredictable logic of a human mind. The more she tried to pinpoint the boys, the more elusive they became. The Queen's frustration grew, but she did not act recklessly. She extended her senses further, reaching into the minds of her children. She felt the bond forming between them and the human. They trusted him, they slept on his chest, they moved in his presence with calm and curiosity. This was something she had not anticipated. No human could be strong enough, fast enough, or clever enough to command such trust from her offspring. And yet here he was. On the ground, Aaron worked tirelessly. He monitored the Queen's ship from multiple angles, adjusting signals, moving equipment, and calculating patterns. He realized he had only one chance to keep the boys safe. He needed not just misdirection, but connection. He spoke softly to the boys, repeating words of comfort and encouragement, using voice patterns that resonated with their energy. The effect was immediate. The boys relaxed, their wings folding gently against their backs, their small bodies curling closer to him. Hours passed, each one stretching with tension. The Queen moved her ship closer, scanning in waves, testing every signal, every energy fluctuation. Her sons were clever, and now so was the human protecting them. Every adjustment he made foiled her sensors, creating new paths of confusion. The Queen's mind raced. How could such a fragile species act with such foresight, such adaptability? Her frustration was tempered by admiration. She had been wrong to dismiss humanity. Suddenly, one of the boys ventured further from Aaron, climbing onto a console that projected holographic data. Its eyes reflected the screens, glowing with intelligence and curiosity. Aaron reached out quickly, his hand steady, guiding the boy back. "Not yet," he murmured. "We have to wait, we have to be careful." The boy seemed to understand, pausing and watching him. The Queen, sensing their location narrowing, decided to test them. She sent a small drone to the lab, a scout designed to observe without detection. It hovered just outside the window, silent and precise, scanning for energy signatures. Aaron noticed immediately. He activated a countermeasure, sending out a decoy signal that mimicked the boy's energy patterns on the other side of the lab. The drone hesitated, confused, and Aaron allowed himself a small, quiet smile. "Good," he whispered. "You're learning?" The boys responded with tiny movements, as if acknowledging his words. Aaron understood something crucial. The boys were not just creatures of instinct. They were intelligent, capable of learning, and capable of trust, and this made them even more valuable, not just to their mother, but to the universe itself. The day stretched on. Aaron maintained his system, constantly adjusting, constantly thinking ahead. He realized that the Queen's greatest strength was also her greatest weakness. She relied on logic and prediction. Humans, by contrast, thrived on unpredictability. Our thoughts, our creativity, and our emotions created possibilities she could not calculate. That was why the boys were safe, at least for now. As evening fell, the sky turned a deep violet, and Aaron allowed himself a brief pause. He held the boys close, feeling the warmth of their bodies and the quiet rhythm of their trust. "We've made it this far," he said softly, "and we're going to make it further. We'll show her what humans can do." She roared again, a deep, resonant sound, but it was quieter this time, more thoughtful. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but also clever. They could devise strategies that even she could not foresee. Her sons were near, but she sensed that brute force alone would not reclaim them. The Queen began to analyze not just the energy signatures of her children, but the patterns of the human. She noticed the calm confidence, the careful adjustments, the intuitive decisions. She realized that this species had something she had never fully considered, the ability to adapt quickly, improvise cleverly, and use empathy as a tool. It was not strength in the traditional sense, but it was powerful all the same. Inside the lab, Aaron worked late into the night. He created layers of signals, lights, and mirrors that would guide any intruder away from the boys' location. He tested every system, watched the responses, and made small adjustments. The boys slept lightly against him, safe for now, their trust in him growing with every passing hour. Then a new reading appeared on the monitor. One of the Queen's larger ships had entered low orbit, moving slowly, deliberately, scanning in patterns designed to detect even the smallest fluctuations. Aaron's mind raced. This was the real test. The Queen herself was observing, and any mistake could reveal the boy's location. He activated the final layer of his protective system, a network of decoys, reflections, and signals that created multiple false locations. Each layer was carefully calculated, yet unpredictable enough to confuse the Queen's sensors. He watched the readings closely, adjusting as needed, and felt a surge of pride. For the first time, he realized the full extent of human ingenuity. It was not just tools or machines or technology. It was thinking, adapting, and trusting in ways no alien mind could fully anticipate. The Queen's ship paused, scanning, analyzing, testing. She was growing cautious, aware that the humans were more capable than she had assumed. Her sons remained safe, hidden in the most unlikely of places, and she began to feel a strange respect for the species. Rage still burned within her, but it was tempered by an understanding that humans were not simply prey. They were clever, resourceful, and unpredictable. Inside the lab, Aaron spoke quietly to the boys, who stirred slightly but did not awaken fully. "We've done well today," he whispered. "We've kept you safe, and tomorrow we'll keep going." He smiled, brushing a hand across their backs. They responded with soft movements, curling closer to him. The night outside was calm, but the tension remained. The Queen observed from above, calculating, adjusting, and learning. She had expected fear and chaos, but she found patience, intelligence, and strategy instead. And she began to understand something profound. Humans, though small and fragile, possessed a kind of strength that could not be measured by power alone. Aaron leaned back in his chair, exhausted but satisfied. He had kept the boys safe for a full day against a being of unimaginable power. He understood that the coming days would be even more challenging, but he also knew something crucial. Humans could outthink even the most intelligent foes. The boys had trusted him, and that trust had become a force stronger than fear or fury. As he closed his eyes briefly, he felt the steady warmth of the boys against him. Above, the Queen's ships continued to hover, observing, calculating, and slowly learning. The universe was vast, full of danger and possibility, yet in that small lab on Earth, a remarkable truth had been proven. Humans, clever and compassionate, could protect, nurture, and outthink forces far beyond their size. And in the quiet of that night, as the boys slept lightly against him, Aaron understood that this was only the beginning. The Queen's presence was a challenge, but it was also a lesson. Humanity's greatest power was not its strength, its weapons, or its technology. It was its mind, its heart, and its ability to adapt when faced with the impossible. The stars above twinkled like distant promises, and Aaron knew that the story was far from over. The Queen would return, the challenge would grow, but for now the boys were safe, and humanity had proven itself once again. And that, he realized, was worth every sleepless hour, every careful calculation, and every quiet moment of trust shared with two small, extraordinary beings. The next morning, the sky above Earth burned with the soft light of dawn, yet a shadow loomed beyond the clouds. Queen Zyra had grown impatient. Her sons were near, she could feel them, and every passing hour intensified her fury. The humans had proven clever, yes, but she was the queen of countless systems, a being whose power and authority had never been challenged. Now she was determined to confront the human who had hidden her children and test whether humanity was truly as capable as it had seemed. Dr. Aaron Cole had not slept. He sat quietly in his lab, the boys nestled against him. Their energy signatures were calm and steady, a stark contrast to the storm of activity beyond the atmosphere. He adjusted instruments, tested signals, and watched the readings carefully. He knew the Queen would come closer today, and every precaution had to be perfect. One mistake could expose the boys' location. He whispered to them softly, "Stay calm, everything will be fine. We just have to be smart and patient." Far above, Queen Zyra descended into low orbit, her massive ship casting a shadow over the lab. She extended her senses, probing, analyzing, feeling the energy patterns of her children. They were here close, yet they had not revealed themselves. Her fury burned, but it was tempered by curiosity. The human protecting them was clever, precise, and composed, a combination she had not expected. How could a species so small challenge her understanding? Aaron noticed fluctuations on his monitors, changes in energy patterns that indicated the Queen was near. He activated the next layer of his protective system, more complex and subtle than anything before. Mirrors, lights, sensors, and signals were combined to create illusions, decoys, and false readings. Every movement he made was calculated to mislead the Queen's scanners while keeping the boys safe. The first scout approached the lab, moving with cautious precision. Aaron activated a decoy signal, sending the drone to a false location across the nearby forest. The scout paused, its sensors attempting to reconcile conflicting data. Aaron watched, heart steady, as the machine finally retreated, unable to detect the true position of the boys. Queen Zyra's voice resonated in the void, deep and commanding. "Where are my sons?" Her words, though not directed at Aaron, carried the weight of 1,000 storms. The boys stirred slightly, sensing the tension in the air. Aaron placed his hands gently over them. "They won't hurt you," he whispered. "You're safe here." His calm energy radiated, reinforcing the trust the boys had already built. The Queen moved closer. Her ship cast a shadow over the lab, and the ground trembled slightly under the sheer presence of her mass. Aaron realized this was the moment of confrontation. She could not sense the boys directly, but her proximity alone was overwhelming. He spoke softly to them again. "Stay calm, stay still. Trust me." The boys adjusted instinctively, curling closer and letting him guide their movements. Zyra scanned, observing the illusions, the misdirections, the carefully crafted network of false signals. She roared in frustration. Humans were clever, yes, but how far could their ingenuity go? She decided to descend further, sending a small probe inside the lab to analyze the energy fields. Aaron anticipated this and activated the final countermeasure, a delicate system of reflective surfaces and projected energy that created multiple false locations, each one convincing and precise. The probe hesitated, scanning repeatedly, unable to distinguish reality from illusion. For the first time, the Queen felt something unfamiliar: hesitation. She had expected fear, aggression, or surrender, but instead she faced calm intelligence. Humans, though small and fragile, had built a system that protected her children and resisted even her advanced technology. Her sons were safe, hidden not by force, but by the cleverness and patience of one human mind. Aaron took a deep breath. He knew the Queen would act soon, possibly directly. There was no turning back. He gently lifted one of the boys, holding him close while the other rested against his chest. Their trust in him was complete, and he understood that this trust was his greatest weapon. The Queen might have power, speed, and strength, but she had not accounted for the resilience, empathy, and ingenuity of humans. Suddenly, a section of the lab door shifted, and the Queen's presence became more tangible. Though she did not enter physically, her energy filled the space, testing boundaries and seeking weaknesses. Aaron remained calm, his mind focused, every movement deliberate. He projected signals of calm, focus, and patience, reinforcing the boys' sense of safety. They responded, relaxing completely against him, unaware of the vast power looming just outside. Zyra's frustration grew. She could sense the boys, their warmth, their life, yet she could not claim them. The human's mind had created barriers that were not physical, barriers that her technology could not penetrate. She roared again, a sound that reverberated through space, but even that did not break the illusion. For the first time, she considered the possibility that humans might be more than mere prey, more than simple creatures to be crushed. Inside the lab, Aaron adjusted his instruments. He realized that communication might be the key. Strength alone could not win this confrontation. Understanding, reasoning, and empathy could. He spoke softly to the Queen, projecting his intent through signals that mimicked thought patterns. "I mean no harm to your sons. They are safe. Trust me." It was a subtle attempt, but one that conveyed intent in a way the Queen could sense. The boys shifted slightly, responding to the calm energy projected by Aaron. Their small bodies pressed closer to him, and their presence seemed to reinforce his message. For the first time, the Queen felt uncertainty. This human was not trying to defeat her through force, but through something different, something she had not anticipated: reason, calm, and protection born of empathy. Hours passed with tense stillness. Aaron maintained his network of signals and illusions, adjusting constantly as the Queen tested, probed, and scanned. Each attempt she made to find her sons was met with careful countermeasures. She roared, she shifted, she analyzed, but the boys remained hidden, asleep on the human's chest. Finally, Zyra decided to observe directly, focusing her senses on the boys themselves. She felt their trust in Aaron, their calmness, their curiosity. They were safe, protected by something she could not touch or calculate: the human mind and human empathy. Rage and frustration battled within her, but beneath it, a new feeling emerged: respect. This species, though small, had achieved what few others could. They had protected her children without weapons, without aggression, without chaos. Aaron continued to whisper softly, reinforcing the boy's sense of safety. "It's okay," he murmured. "We're safe. We can handle this." The boys shifted slightly, responding to his voice and presence. Their trust was absolute, and that trust had become a force stronger than fear, stronger than fury. The Queen studied the human carefully. She realized that her sons were learning from him, absorbing lessons of trust, patience, and intelligence. They were safe because of him, not in spite of him. Her rage burned, but it was tempered by admiration. This human had achieved something remarkable. He had protected her children, outwitted her censors, and maintained calm in the face of a being far more powerful. Aaron smiled faintly, understanding the significance of what had occurred. The Queen had come to test them, expecting a confrontation of strength, but she had been met with patience, strategy, and understanding. Her sons were safe, asleep on his chest, and he had proven something vital: humans could protect, nurture, and outthink even the greatest of foes. The Queen withdrew slightly, observing from above. Her children were safe, hidden, and learning. The human who protected them was clever, calm, and resourceful. And for the first time, she considered the possibility that humans were not to be dismissed, that they possessed qualities that even she could not fully calculate. As night fell, Aaron finally allowed himself to relax slightly. He held the boys close, feeling the warmth and trust radiating from them. Outside, the Queen's presence remained, but she no longer roared with unchecked fury. Instead, she observed, calculating, and slowly learning. Humanity had proven itself not through strength or weapons, but through cleverness, empathy, and calm determination. The boys stirred slightly, shifting on Aaron's chest. They were learning, absorbing, and trusting. And Aaron knew that this moment, fragile and tense as it was, represented something extraordinary. The human spirit, clever and compassionate, could survive and thrive even against forces far stronger than itself. The stars above twinkled like distant promises. The Queen watched silently, her fury tempered by understanding. Aaron held the boys close, alert but calm, and the lab became a sanctuary in the middle of an uncertain galaxy. The universe was vast and full of danger, yet in that small space, humanity had proven its ingenuity, resilience, and power in ways that no one could have predicted. And for now, the boys slept peacefully, their trust in Aaron unbroken, their safety secured, while the Queen reconsidered her assumptions about the species that had dared to challenge her expectations. The story was far from over, but humanity had taken a bold step forward, showing that cleverness, empathy, and strategy could stand against even the most formidable forces in the galaxy. The sun rose again over Earth, painting the sky with soft gold and amber. In the quiet of his lab, Dr. Aaron Cole stirred, the boys still asleep against his chest. Their breathing was calm, steady, a rhythm that reflected the trust they had placed in him. The Queen's presence above Earth was still strong, but something had changed in her demeanor. Her fury had tempered, replaced with careful observation and something that almost felt like respect. Aaron had not slept in days. His body ached, but his mind was sharp. Every sensor, every signal, every decoy he had set up over the past days had held. The boys remained safe. The Queen had come to test them, expecting fear and chaos, but she had found calm, strategy, and intelligence. Humanity had proven itself, not by force, but by ingenuity. Above, Queen Zyra hovered, her massive ship reflecting the sun's rays like molten metal. She extended her senses once more, reaching for her children. The boys were awake now, watching Aaron with wide, curious eyes. They chirped softly, their small wings fluttering as they explored their surroundings, yet they did not stray far from him. He was their anchor, their guide, the being who had kept them safe when the universe seemed hostile. The Queen's roar shook the air, a sound of both power and restrained emotion. She had come expecting anger to be met with resistance, but instead she felt calm. She observed the bond between Aaron and her children, a bond forged through trust, empathy, and intelligence. For the first time, she questioned her assumptions about humans. How could such a fragile species display such resilience and cleverness? How could they protect her offspring without weapons, without violence, and without fear? Aaron noticed the subtle fluctuations in the energy readings from the Queen's ship. She was close, considering her next move, but she had not yet acted aggressively. He understood this moment was critical. Words might not carry across the void, but actions, signals, and intent could. He held the boys gently, projecting calm through his energy, reinforcing the trust they had already placed in him. They responded, snuggling closer, relaxed and curious. For several tense hours, a silent conversation passed between human and queen. The queen's sensors scanned, the human mind calculated, the boys observed, learning. Every action mattered. Aaron adjusted the mirrors, lights, and signals, keeping the queen uncertain of the boys' exact location. Yet he also focused on something more important than hiding, understanding. He projected the thought that had guided him since the beginning. We mean no harm to your sons. They are safe. You need not fear them. It was subtle, a pattern of energy and intent rather than words, but the queen sensed it. The fury within her flared, then softened. The human was not a threat. The boys were safe. And she, for the first time, saw that humans had a kind of strength that did not rely on weapons or brute force. The boys explored gently, climbing onto Aaron's shoulders, brushing against his arms, their curiosity unbroken. They had learned to trust him completely, and this trust was evident in their movements. Aaron whispered softly, guiding them and reassuring them. "It's okay," he said. "They won't hurt you. You're safe here." She felt their comfort, their relaxation, their trust in this human. Her mind, vast and brilliant, struggled to reconcile what she was sensing. Her children were safe. She had not needed to destroy or dominate, and the human who had protected them had done so with calm intelligence and empathy. A strange feeling stirred within her, admiration, respect, perhaps even a kind of understanding. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were capable of thought, care, and strategy in ways that her species had not fully anticipated. Rage and instinct battled within her, yet she could not act against the human without risking harm to her sons. And that, she realized, was impossible. She had underestimated humanity. Aaron watched the readings carefully. The queen was calm now, observing rather than attacking. He whispered again to the boys, reinforcing the sense of security. They responded with soft movements, curling closer, their tiny wings resting against him. For the first time in days, he allowed himself a brief smile. Humanity had endured, and it had done so without violence. Hours passed in this quiet tension. The queen remained in orbit, her presence powerful yet restrained. She observed the boys, their interactions with Aaron, and the subtle ways humans think and adapt. She learned something vital. Strength is not only measured by power or speed, but by intelligence, patience, and empathy. These humans had all three in abundance. Finally, the queen made a decision. She withdrew slightly, her ship ascending to higher orbit, giving the human and his charges a measure of space. Her sons remained awake, curious and playful, yet fully safe. She roared softly, a sound of acknowledgement and warning, but not of anger. She had learned a lesson that no one had taught her. Humans were to be respected. They could outthink, outmaneuver, and protect in ways that brute force alone could not match. Aaron let out a quiet sigh of relief. He had kept the boys safe. He had proven that intelligence, empathy, and patience could protect against the greatest of powers. The boys chirped softly, hopping and exploring, their energy light and lively. They had learned from him just as he had learned from them. A connection had formed, one that transcended species, one built on trust and understanding. Even as night fell, the queen lingered above, watching. She did not roar this time. She observed, learning more about this species that had challenged her assumptions. Her sons were safe, and she understood that humans had a form of power unlike any she had encountered. It was subtle, quiet, but effective, the power of the mind, the heart, and the ability to adapt. Aaron finally allowed himself to rest, sitting in the lab with the boys asleep on his chest once more. He reflected on what had occurred. The universe was vast and unpredictable, filled with danger, yet here, in this small space, humans had demonstrated resilience and cleverness. They had protected life, built trust, and outthought a being of unimaginable power. The boys stirred lightly, sensing his calm and steady heartbeat. They shifted, their small hands brushing against his arms. Aaron smiled faintly, whispering to them, "We did it. We stayed safe and we protected each other. You can sleep now." They responded with tiny movements of comfort, settling again against him. Far above, Queen Zyra observed one last time before beginning her departure. She had not come to destroy. She had come to test, and she had learned. Her sons were safe, and the human who had protected them had proven himself worthy of consideration. She rose into the stars, her fleet following, leaving Earth unscathed. But she would remember this encounter, and she would remember humanity. They were clever, unpredictable, and capable of something rare in the universe: intelligent empathy. Back in the lab, Aaron remained still, feeling the warmth and trust of the boys. He thought about the days that had passed, The danger, the strategy, the long hours of preparation, and he felt a deep sense of pride. Humanity had endured, had learned, and had protected life without violence. That, he realized, was a victory far greater than any battle. The boys finally fell into deep, peaceful sleep, their trust in him complete. Aaron held them gently, careful not to disturb the quiet moment. Outside, Earth's night was calm, the stars shining with the promise of countless possibilities. The Queen had departed, but the lesson remained clear. Humans were not weak. They were clever, adaptable, and capable of great feats of protection and ingenuity. Aaron whispered softly, "Rest now. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but for now you are safe." The boys responded with soft, gentle chirps, nestling closer against him. Their energy and curiosity were undimmed, their trust absolute. And in that moment, Aaron understood something profound. Humanity's strength did not lie in weapons or power, but in the ability to think, adapt, and care deeply for others. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but here, on this small planet, humanity had proven itself. The boys were safe. The Queen had learned to respect them. And Aaron, exhausted yet elated, realized that this was only the beginning of a story far larger than he could imagine. A story where humans were no longer underestimated. A story where cleverness, empathy, and resilience could shape the course of the galaxy. As the night deepened, the lab remained quiet. The boys slept on a human chest, warm and secure, while Aaron watched over them, alert and steady. Above, the stars twinkled, distant and infinite, yet their light reflected the promise of new beginnings. Humanity had taken its place in the galaxy, not with violence, but with intelligence, patience, and courage. And the story, though it had reached a temporary peace, would continue, full of possibility, wonder, and the enduring strength of the human spirit.